What's up, Cardfighters? Ryan here from Vanguard Central, bringing you guys a brand new Regalia updated deck profile. This is going to feature some of the new cards from G-BT08, so stay tuned.
Stand up, Vanguard!
Starting with our grade 3s, we are playing 4 copies of Verthandi. Verthandi is one of the new cards from the latest set, and it's actually really amazing, I think. Verthandi provided the kind of lack of rearguard support that Regalia is needed in order to be good again, and I feel like it's really great for the second stride skill, basically, where it gives your Vanguard with Regalia in its name a skill that whenever a card is put into your soul, you choose up to 3 units in your front row and they both get plus 1k, or they all get plus 1000. So which is really nice. So basically it's for every card you put into soul, your front row gains plus 1000. And it combos really well with the new Earth Stride. Basically, if you have a really fat soul, you're going to have a really fat front row. And its first abilities actually comes in pretty in handy as well. Just because, let's say your opponent's trying to grade 2 game you, or if you're able to pull off the soul, and you do have the front row units, you can actually get some really nice pressure plays and hand advantage, so as long as your units hit, because you get some free hand at basically no cost. And our backup is going to be CEO Yggdrasil. We're going with a full Regalia build. We're not playing Minerva or Angelica, because this build is kind of like something weird where you want to be able to finish the people off with Earth at least. At least this is the way I'm trying to play it. So CEO is just all around a great backup since we are playing the 4 mates as well, since it has really good skill. CEO is there to help us close games just in case we can't do it anyways. Still a really scary Legion card because of its ability to just really shut out people from guarding. Even though G-Guardians kind of help against guard restrict decks, this can get some pretty powerful numbers by itself. Moving on to our grade 2s, we are playing 4 copies of Regalia Fate Norn. Norn is the mate for CEO Yggdrasil, and the reason why we run it is simply because for the skill, because every time she's soul blasted, you can choose your Vanguard and it gets an additional 5k power. So it comes in really handy when you're going for that CEO Legion play, and also if you just want to make some really powerful Vanguard's numbers. And then following her, we got 4 copies of Regalia Hemera. Hemera is just all around an amazing card because you can just recycle whatever you soul blast and put it back into your soul. It's really good and it combos really well with Earth and also with Verthandi, for example. So you can get some really nice recycling without having to worry about deck health. And then next I got 4 copies of Hesperus as well. Hesperus is basically the same as Norn, where it gets a skill when it's soul blasted, but it gives a skill to your Vanguard that when it hits an opponent's Vanguard, you can retire one of their rear guards. So you get some pretty strong field control with this deck. We're running them all Regalias. I know it's kind of like lackluster, but it actually makes sense because with the new Stride, basically with the new Stride Break Regalia card that we get, we're going to hit some pretty nice numbers even though all of our grade 2s are solely 9Ks. Moving on to our grade 1s, our Sentinel lineup is actually pretty funky. I'm still toying around with it, but it's been working so far for me. First I got 2 copies of Secret Elsie. Elsie is actually the new Revelation Quintet wall that they got, which is really funny, because it does have a revelation skill where if you have to end up writing it, at least you can look at the top card of your deck. But other than that, its Quintet wall skill is really good in Regalias. So basically how it works is that you soul blast any amount of cards when it's placed on Guardian Circle, and then you call the same amount of cards from the top of your deck. So it helps you accelerate the deck out, which is actually what you kind of want in this deck to set up for the Earth plays. But really what it does is it just combos really well with cards like Norn, as well as our Stand Trigger, for example, because it basically gets some really fat cross-ride numbers for your Vanguard. If you really want to just shut down like poke decks or anything like that, you can use LC to guard once, and then you can shut down everything else. But if not, PGs are also good too. Next, I'm running 1 copy of the regular Regalia Quintet wall. You don't actually counterblast a lot in this deck, surprisingly, just because the Regalias, they really just focus around the soul. So the 1 counterblast one to help you get some 5 extra cards out of the deck really helps a lot. And then I'm playing just 1 regular perfect card. Should actually be a regular perfect card that doesn't have to be placed from hand, so that you can combo it off with with Secret Elsie. But this was actually the only one I had, unfortunately. This can also be teched then maybe for another Svalin, just so that you have that Regalia name as well. But the 1 PG can just help you if you want to stop that 1 big attack. So after that funky lineup for the Sentinels, we are playing next for Shiny Angel, another Regalia card, of course. Shiny Angel is the same as Hemera, just really good at helping you recycle cards that you just soul blasted. It really combos well with Verthandi, like I said. And then 3 Stride Fodders. We're running 8 grade 3, so I felt like 4 Stride Fodders was a little too much because I don't want to be maximizing too many non-Regalias, since our PGs are basically non-Regalias, even though we have only 1 Sentinel that's Regalia. So the 3 Stride Fodders do help out a ton, though. And then we got 2 of the new card next era Regalia Scald. Scald, I felt like was a good card. I didn't like it at 3 though, because I felt like it was just too much. You can toy around with it. You can drop the Stride Fodder down and add another one. I just felt like the Stride Fodder was a little bit more important. Scold though has a really great skill. It helps you decelerate on your deck out, which is good because every time you Soul Blast during the turn, as long as you Soul Blast more than 3, you can send another 3 normal units back into the deck. Now the reason why I don't really like it is because I'm sending back normal units, but the deck doesn't really shuffle anyway, so it's totally fine. It helps you also Soul Charge 1 and also draw 1. So it gets some nice hand advantage as long as it's on the board. It's not too hard to get it out also, because in a way you can somewhat search it, because if you end up Soul Charging it, we're going to be able to grab it later with our starter anyways. Moving on to our triggers, we are playing 8 crits, 4 of them being Regalia, and the other 4 being Kukuri Hime. Kukuri Hime is actually the one I prefer over the Fenrir one in this one, because 1, we're not running the Fenrir, and also it's an act phase for putting it into the soul, so it combos well with Verthandi, because whenever a card's put into the soul, you can do a plus 3,000, you can give a plus 1,000 to each unit in the front row, which is really good because even just putting this into 1 unit, you get plus 4,000 in a sense in the front row, so it's really good, combos well with it. And then 4 stand triggers, it's going to be Achilles, or Achilles, whichever his name is. It's basically the same card as Norn, and it just, whenever it's Soul Blasted, you get to give it an extra 5k. So having those extra power numbers really helps with the CEO turns, and being a Regalia helps out a ton also. And then 4 Regalia heal triggers, because G-Guardians are going to help us also, since it's basically the same skill as Chimera and Shiny Angel. And our starter is going to be Fetter of Leather Lading. Lading is just all around a good starter. I wanted to run a Regalia starter, but unfortunately it just doesn't suit this deck, because the only other Regalia one is meant for Legion. I found like a pretty funky way, if you wanted to run it, you can. Even though you ride Verthandi, you can still put it into the soul no matter what, because it doesn't say that you have to pay the cost. So if you want to, you can just run that extra Regalia so that you can Soul Blast it out whenever, and then use it with Earth to get an extra card back. I felt like that was a little too gimmicky for me, because I wanted more, value out of a card. So I went with Lading, just because he can get us those extra Chimeras or extra Shiny Angels, just to keep recycling cards at like little to no cost. Moving on to our G-Zone, we got 2 copies of the most ghetto Demeters. Unfortunately, we can't find any Demeters, which is really weird, so I had to just kind of throw some. Basically, you're running 2 Demeters because it's going to be your first ideal stride. It's not like the Genesis Wiseman deck where you just ramp soul a bunch. This one's actually weird where you want to just have a deck out kind of thing, which is why I'm running like the 3 Quintet Walls. So this is actually really good. It's a free on-attack Soul Charge 3, so it combos really well with Verthandi, where basically you get plus 3k to the front row, and then, if you don't, and then if you also use like Kukuri Hime, for example, and putting into the soul, you can give plus 7,000 in total, basically, when you swing with this, so basically it'd be a 16k on its own. So you make some pretty nice numbers if you can play that if you play that well enough. What's really nice too is that if you've already Soul Blasted, say you use Verthandi's first ability or something like that, or you Quintet Wall or anything, it's really good because you can have that drop zone set up and call out your Chimeras and Shiny Angels to get even extra cards in there, so it can give you plus 6,000 instead of just 3,000. So you do make a lot of good numbers on the rearguard plays, which is what I really enjoy about this deck. And then following Demeter, we got 4 copies of Earth. Earth is just all around a pretty strong card. The only problem that is it's perfect guardable, which is what everyone thinks is like kind of poop about it. But I still think it's a really great card, considering that you can just put your entire drop zone full of Regalias into your soul, and you just go ahead and reuse that. So basically this is the second stride, and having Regalia Demeter as your first stride really opens this deck up a little bit. Just because your second stride is, your opponent knows if you're playing it like this, you're gonna have a really strong first turn. So more than likely they're not gonna guard that first attack, which is nice because it's gonna help you maybe double crits or just push them to higher damage to help you and close the game if you want to for the CEO plays. Because having CEO basically takes out their perfect guards, and sometimes G guards is just not going to be enough for such a high powered attack. So I really like it if they end up perfect guarding your first stride, you can go into Earth and really just close out the game right there. Also, comboing with Verthandi, you can get some freaking insane front row lanes with this. Say for example, if you have like 15 cards in the drop zone that are all Regalias, you put all those into the soul, and that's plus 15,000 to your front row. Which is really strong. The only problem is, I feel like the timing is weird. Your cards need to be on the board already since this is an on-play skill, so it's not the same as the meter where you can like call it afterwards and swing on attack. But still, all around Earth, I feel like is just a really great card in Regalias. Following Earth, I got 4 copies of Vanagandar. Vanagandar is basically the backup boss. Sometimes, you know, Vanguard's Vanguard, things aren't going to go your way. So Vanagandar is going to be there for an extra pressured hit. On attack, Soul Blast 6, you can just go ahead and rearrange the top of your deck and how you like, and then scare your opponent to death with some crits. After Vanagandar, I got 1 copy of Tyr. Tyr is just like the backup first stride. If you can't set up properly, things are just weird. Tyr is just not a terrible backup. Helps you fill up the soul when you need to. And then I got 1 Doombrace. Doombrace is just kind of like a weird closer. If you can make a really big lane or you run out of strides, you can just go into Doombrace. Which is weird because I don't think you would run out of strides because you probably might kill them with Earth or you just with the CEO closer. Moving on to our G guards, I got 2 copies of Iris. Iris is basically the same as Chimera and Shiny Angel, where you can, when it's placed on Guardian Circle, you send 3 units from your drop zone into your soul, and as long as you do that, you get the additional 5k shield. So it's an easy 20k guard. I got 1 copy of Battle Maiden Hanasatsuki, basically the 25k guard. Really good in this deck, I think, because you do end up having a lot of soul. Just in case if you set up for like other Legion plays, it's not too difficult to have the same card on the rear guard into your soul. So I feel like Hanasatsuki is just good for that free 25 shield. And they got the 1 screw, just in case you don't have Hanasatsuki set up, you can go ahead and get an additional extra guard. Thanks for watching, guys. That was our brand new updated Regalia deck profile. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Regalias were kind of like the one clan or one sub clan that needed a lot of support just because it was lack of like rearguard presence, and I feel like Verthandi did give that to us. So I feel like this is gonna maybe push up Regalias just a little bit. Not too sure how it's gonna compete against Wiseman, but I still think it's a really fun deck if you guys want to check it out. So like I always say, guys, like our videos, comment down below if you guys have any questions, and subscribe for more content. Vanguard Central out.